So I'm going to put the first question in the answered. My question is about the cycle of abuse, verbal, emotional, psychological abuse. Are the good parts of the cycle an illusion, or are the positive parts the kind of life I may hope to have with my husband now that he's finally in a true recovery program? Should I hope or expect the abusive behaviors to stop?
Well, I guess, Tammy, and I'm going to throw this to you first, but I wonder, I'm not sure what this person means by, well, they don't mean physical abuse, right? So talking verbal, emotional,
Yeah, it says
psychological,
verbal, emotional, and psychological abuse, which
which
are,
sounds
I
like
mean,
lying,
are
manipulating,
yeah, and devastating.
gaslighting.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the answer is yes. I think that if somebody's working on their recovery, they have a responsibility to treat people kindly. And they really have responsibility, especially if this person has hurt you, to do what he can to not hurt you anymore. So absolutely, you should be able to expect that he's not going to be hurtful to you. But part of the thing is, how do you handle it? Do you know how to set boundaries? Do you know how to take care of yourself and say, I need a break, I need to get away from you? Or even to say, I don't like hearing this and I'm just going to go in the other room. I mean, how do you take care of yourself? Because you may never be able to, I hope you can, but you may never be able to get him to be less abusive. What you can get is you can take care of yourself and make sure nothing bad happens to you. The other question is, are the good parts of the cycle an illusion? So I think I have to say a little bit about the cycle of abuse and what it
Please.
is that, and I'm going to get pieces wrong and you can help me, Tammy, but it basically goes like this. You're not meeting my needs. You're not good enough. I really am angry at you. And then I hit you, or I get really, really abusive. And then I feel bad about it. And so then I go back and I'm so, so sorry. And I didn't mean it. And then I turn around and I try to romance you and do really nice things for you and make you feel better. And then I move into, but you're fat and ugly. And then it goes round and round. So do I mean it when I say you're lovely and I love you? And yes, of course I do. But why? Why am I saying that is more the question. Do I genuinely look at you and say, God, I love you so much? Or do I think, God, I feel so awful about how I acted, and she's been so nice today, I need to let her know? I think the motivations are different. But Tammy, what do you want to toss into here?
No, I think that that's really important to understand where it's coming from, and they're both on one side of the spectrum or the other, and the middle is what we strive for in recovery. And but I loved what Dr. Rob started off with, of like you setting healthy boundaries and being able to say, and I would highly encourage, not when it's in the negative phase of the cycle, but to have the discussion about, when this happens, I'm going to extricate myself. I'm going to go in the other room, or I'm going to ask you to go in another room or call your sponsor or whatever. But we're going to have a plan about, because this isn't okay. And then hopefully your person who's now in recovery is going to go, oh, I'm not really doing this recovery thing well. I need to go talk to my sponsors. And if they're really doing recovery well, they're going to come back and make an amends. And amends isn't going to be that romancing and, just to get them out of it. It's from a real place of like, I messed up. I'm going to work really hard on not doing that again. And here's how I'm going to be accountable for it. Not 100% perfect, obviously human nature, but I'm sorry. Or the romancing, the motivation of, I feel bad about me, so I'm going to be nice to you. It's
Narcissistic.
well, yeah, and the abuse is from, I feel bad about me, so I'm going to make you feel bad. So both
Right.
of them come from the same place and really don't serve you or the relationship well. So
I
healthy
wanted to
boundaries for you, please.
just add a couple of things, is that please don't discuss the need for boundaries or separation or space when the anger is going on,
Correct.
because no one can hear that and you're going to escalate the problem. If when things are good, you say, you know what, when we're getting upset, why don't we just try this out and maybe even practice? Like, I'm going to go in the other room, I'll come back in 10 minutes, I'm coming back. So just really working on it before it's at the height of the problem.
Yes.
And there's something else I want to say, which Tammy, in all of this years of doing this work, I don't think until I got to Seeking Integrity, I really, really understood how abusive the men that I work with are. They are so focused on sexual behavior, and they're so focused on cheating and the lying and their partner's hurt, to try to fix it and make it all better. But I constantly hear spouses say, he's raging at me, he's devaluing what I have to say, he's throwing plates at the wall, he's yelling at the kids, and so it seems to be typical in my experience for many, many addicts, especially sex addicts. And what I wrote about this is I don't think they know. Because when I read your letters, because we do this at Seeking Integrity, you guys send us a letter about your experience and we read it. And the guys are like, I do that. That's abuse. I pressure her into sex, stuff like that. And they honestly don't, I'm not giving them an excuse. It's just they don't get it. They don't even see. And then they hear you nagging and complaining and they think, well, there she goes again. And then they don't ever really hear you. So,
and it's not that you're nagging and complaining. That's how it's taken in or not taken in. It's pushing out. Again, it's a deflection. I don't want to deal with me. You're just nagging and it's you.
So let's keep moving. We have a lot of questions.
I know we have a lot. Okay. So the next one, in a relationship for 30 years, 24 of them married, spouse is recovering drug, meth addict, alcoholic. He did not work any program. He has had 2 relapses with pot in the last 10 years, and both times he concealed use until discovered after 6 months. Strained the relationship considerably. Last year, discovered porn masturbation habit. 10 days ago, discovered husband has been soliciting sex at erotic massage parlors 2 to 3 times per month, and that he has been doing so for over 30 years, exclamation point. I never had a clue he is a self-employed contractor with flexible hours with a business account, so I do not have access to, and he uses cash only. Involvement goes beyond a happy ending as he has engaged in full-on sexual activity with the exception of intercourse, so he says.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
1 second. He's lying, just to be sure. He's lying.
Yes. I am heartbroken and devastated at this discovery. He says he goes for the intimacy as the providers make him feel cared for. At this moment, he is only willing to manage his own sexual sobriety solo by avoiding any massage parlors, legit or I don't know.
So the question here is, Tammy, what is the actual question? I'm trying to read.
I have a feeling it's a continued one, and I don't know which one it's continued. So
okay. There's plenty
let's
say. And one of the things that your husband has what we call an addict job, which is he decides where he goes. Nobody knows where he is. He can come and go and say, I'm at lunch, and there's no one to watch him. There's no one to observe, and no one he really has to report to except by phone. So it's the perfect job for him to go around and do whatever he wants and have you not know about it. I can't tell you how very sad I am that this isn't going on for such a long time, and how deeply wounded and overwhelmed I would feel if I were you. And what I see some things here is looking for an answer. It feels a little bit like looking for an answer, and it seems like it's way too soon for that. There are no answers as long as he is not willing to really take responsibility. And there's something else you wrote. Oh, the intimacy. So what sex workers will say is many, many men go, in fact, most of the men will go there not just for sex, but to feel heard. And they go to get comfort, and they go to get supported, and they go for all this kind of stuff. By the way, it's a lot easier to be intimate and open up to a stranger than it is actually to be intimate and be open with you, because you can hurt him, you can disappoint him, you can get angry at him. This person he's paying, doesn't really affect him like that. He has control.
It's transactional. Yeah.
Right. And I know Tammy's going to want to go after this, but I just want to say that there is no way to manage your sobriety solo. It's a solo problem. To fix it requires community and connection. And this feels like a lot of manipulation to me. Like, I'm going to decide how I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell you to not, I'm all of that. By the way, I don't know how many resources you have, but one of the things that I think about in this situation is, do you have kids? Did they have a college fund? Was there money that could have been spent on his family? Do you have spiritual religious beliefs? Could he have tithed that money? So when someone says 30 years of behavior, unfortunately, I think they spent a fortune that could have been with their family on this situation, and then they never told you. So anyway, go ahead, Tammy.
Well, and I have a lot, because he's lying to himself and you when he says it was intimate. That's transactional, and he's paying for services, and they're customer service related. So like they are gonna, they're gonna make him, feel heard. I get really troubled by he says he goes for intimacy, but at this moment he is only willing. He's only willing, which to me means I'm not willing to work on my relationship. I'm not willing to work on myself. I'm, again, like Dr. Rob just said with the employment and everything, I'm going to tell you what I'm willing to do. he's got a really, this is co-occurring. He's never been really in recovery because he was using other things. So he stopped one form of acting out, but he was doing other things, you know?
Right.
So he's never had any kind of sobriety. He's had abstinence from, you know, from meth. He's had abstinence from alcohol. He's had periods of time when he's been abstinent from, you know, cannabis or whatever, like you pick the thing. But this whole time he's been going to the massage parlors. This whole time he's, you know, massage or the porn and masturbation. So he's using something, and who knows what else he's, you know, I'm gaming and gambling. I mean, who knows? It
Well,
doesn't matter. It's all problematic behavior. So as we said with the first question, what healthy boundaries do you need to set for you for your safety, financial, emotional? I mean, please go get an STD test for you as well, because you know, I mean, this is problematic. So, but what healthy boundary? You know, he may need to move out of the house. It may be a therapeutic separation within the home. I don't know, but and you know, to me, if he wants to be in this relationship, he's lost the ability to dictate how, you know, how he's going to get help or not get help, do it by himself,
yeah.
you know, give me a
And by the
break,
way,
you know.
and there is one more, and I really want to move on because there's so many questions.
Yeah,
But one thing I don't see in here is how angry you are. I mean, I would
yeah.
be absolutely furious and think, how did you allow me to be in this relationship with you without telling me anything? You gave me no chance to live my life, to pick my relationship, to do what I felt was best for me, because you lied to me all these years. And so basically you took our lives and you decided what to do with it. And, you know, I don't know if I got an STD. I don't know if I've got COVID. I don't, you know, by the way, I do really recommend that you get an STD test. I think that's something that we don't always think about. It's humiliating, you know, but go ahead, Tammy. You're going to say
No,
something else.
I like, the shame should not be on you. I mean, like it's, and I know that partners feel like I have to go get an STD test and I feel such a shame. And I like, it was kind of a news flash to me when they shared that, but I was like, no, that, you know, or that my husband's cheating on me or that I even need to, but like take ownership. This is my body and I want it to be healthy and I need information in order to be healthy. So, you know, if I can do anything to empower you to not feel shame about, you know, just getting tested. So, okay, next question. I'm the spouse of an SAPA on my second D-Day 6 months ago. We've been married for 18 years. I wanted to ask you about your advice for spouses that have had to deal with the addict trauma of affair partners being brought into the home. Oh, upon discovery, I found a graphic video of my husband on our couch with the affair partner. Turns out there have been at least 10 brought into our home and several times. I haven't come across the subject yet in any of the work I've been doing, and I feel it's important. I have, let's see, I have to, your place of home ripped away from you. It feels like it's awful. It adds to the PTSD of the symptoms when you're picturing those things happening in your home. And we do talk about this occasionally, and like I I think it's extra traumatic when it comes into your home, into your car. It's somebody you know, the best former best friend. You know, those I think absolutely do add to the layers of trauma. I'd be burning the couch outside the house, but yeah, there'd be a bonfire in the backyard.
Well, I
So
think there was a movie called Waiting to Exhale in the 90s where one of the women was being cheated on and she took every piece of clothing her husband had and she set them on fire in his car and burned the car and all his clothes down. So why am I thinking about this? I have to think about why I'm thinking about this. And it's because that's what I would do. And I don't know that I would break the law, but
I
I
would
do
not
want to
break the
talk.
law, but yeah, you
Well,
can
maybe
burn
you could
your
burn his
couch
clothes.
in you can have a bonfire in the backyard, but anyway,
Yeah,
so
that's okay. So anyway, I think this is one of the most difficult things that I hear spouses go through, and in some ways is unforgivable, that you had sex with someone else in my bed, that you brought someone else into our home, that I can never look at that bed again without no less lie in it and not think about this. And not to mention that, but did you bring anyone into our house who might have not been safe? Might they have taken down our address and looked at our stuff and said, I'll be back later with someone? So, and if you have children, he also didn't protect them from any. So this is beyond just acting out. This is a really really troubled behavior. It is acting out, but this person, I mean, this is someone who should be in treatment. They're going to lose. And by the way, I hope that you're, first of all, I've had spouses who sold the bed, didn't want to sleep in that bed anymore. I actually have had men say, I'm going to sell our house because my wife doesn't want to ever go in there again. Or we had sex in my car, I'm going to sell the car. You have a right. You use the word PTSD. I can't imagine I would walk into that house without just feeling all that yuck. So there really, again, isn't a question here exactly, I don't think. There is no safety in your home anymore. And how you're going to find your safe space is going to be something you're going to have to figure out. But it's interesting because a lot of the women I work with are men will kick the person out, and you can't because it's all around you, whether the person's there or not. So I'm not sure that you can move forward in this particular set of circumstances, whether it's burning the bed, kicking him out, selling the house. I don't know what your resources are, but I would have trouble being there at all. So, Tim?
Well, and I've talked like whether it's I'm completely repainting, I mean, like repaint new sheets. I mean, what I would be redecorating, and I mean, if it's possible to to move, that's all fine. But yeah, I mean, redecorating, it's like everything gets different, so that there's a new visual for me. And the bedroom might be bright pink, just to, I mean, whatever I needed to do. But for me, a lot of it is how can I start to feel empowered in a situation that has been out of my control. So doing some things that are for me and change things, at least is a step. But yeah, I mean, leaning into this stuff, please join all the betrayed partner groups. But I'm with Dr. Rob. We have this great program, Seeking Integrity. These are the kind of clients that, absolutely a 15-minute session once a week with even the best therapist is, I mean, you're looking at, 12 to 24 months to get a foundation, but in the meantime, here you are hanging out there in the, in the trauma. So.
I also haven't heard, Tammy, and you are the one who mentioned it. What support do you have? Do you have a therapist? Do you have a group that you go to? We run free groups for betrayed spouses, and you're welcome to drop in any time. Sex and relationship healing. Oops, yep. Sex and relationship healing. We have I don't know, about 10 groups that at least that we run weekly for spouses and other folks, older spouses, younger spouses, male spouses. Everybody gets a space. So I really think that if you're in a community of women who you won't be alone, and this will have happened to some others. And I think it obviously doesn't make it better, but it takes the shame out of it, because you say, how could this have happened? What did I do? How could I have this happen in my home? And then when you realize, oh, it happened to those 4 other women too, it doesn't feel good for them, but there is a sense of I'm not alone. And so I really hope that you seek out support for yourself. And if you write to TAMI, Tammy at seekingintegrity.com, that's a 4-letter word. Tammy is really, really, I think it's one of your missions to try to get the right kind of help to the right people. And we don't get kickbacks. What we get is the opportunity to refer to people that we really respect. So if you're looking for that kind of support, do write Tammy a note, and we don't charge you. We will send you a couple of therapists who are helpful. Ooh, someone had a question. You started saying, no, go ahead.
About the spouse's position on this. Can you elaborate?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think we should keep going.
Okay. D-Day occurred May of 2021 when I discovered that my husband met with a swinging couple he had met online and had sex. He says this was the first time. In December of 2021, I found out he'd been watching porn our entire 8-year relationship, but I don't know the frequency extent of that. My husband started therapy with a CSAT in October of 2021. And has been going twice a month since then. No other group or 12-step work that I'm aware of. Oh my gosh. Okay. While I do recognize that he is making more effort to talk about feelings through a daily check-in, is more helpful around the house and with kids, and doesn't just freeze and shut down when I get triggered, I still don't feel like he is in a strong recovery. He recently took a SAS from his therapist and scored a 5, but says he is not concerned about his sexual behavior and states that CSAT told him she doesn't believe he is an addict, has an addiction problem. I feel like he's in denial about himself. What else should I be seeing in terms of recovery to indicate strong recovery work?
Well, just a quick comment, because I've worked with enough addicts to know this and been a therapist for enough to know this. I saw he states that his therapist told him that she doesn't believe he has a sex addiction problem. Did you hear that from the therapist? Or is that what he told you? Because it's not infrequent for the men and women I work to say, oh, my therapist insisted on this and they told me not to do this. And they're lying, they're simply lying. And so if it makes me look good, if it makes you think that I'm doing the best I can, if it makes you think that I've been reassured that the way I'm going is, I'm going to lie to you. And this man is already lying to you, because trust me, you didn't know about the porn. You didn't know about was it the sex workers or porn, and there's something else.
Yeah, there was
The swinging.
The swinging couple. Yeah, the swinging couple.
Trust me.
Yeah.
He's lying to you. There is absolutely no question in my mind that whatever he's done, multiply it by 5 and then think about what's happened. I mean, if I could lie to you about the deepest and most intimate parts of our relationship for years and years and years, it's pretty easy for me to lie to you about, no, I never did that. And besides, that's our goal, is to shut you up. We want you to just go in a box and leave us alone. And so, it's really much easier to do that if we say, well, I didn't do that, and I didn't do that, and I didn't do it. Oh, and by the way, my therapist says I'm supposed to do it this way. By the way, Tammy will probably throw a rock at him if she could see him, because
like this is one of those I'm yanking on my hair, because I'm like, okay, all right. So first of all, this asked is a quick screen. Like there's a hundreds of questions, online assessment that his therapist can give him. In addition to, there's a bunch of things, and he should have, in my opinion, all of those, because this sounds so minimized, because he doesn't really think that his sexual behavior is a problem. There's way more complex stuff. Seeing his therapist twice a month and he's not doing anything else, he's not in recovery. He's maybe abstinent, maybe. And I'm like, that's being generous, because he, like, oh my gosh, minimize. I hope you don't mention it, but I hope you have a codependent aligned support therapist to work with, to support you, because this is a hot mess. And I would not believe him when he tells what his therapist is. It would be great to connect, have a session, conjoint with his therapist with you, and say, here's what I'm seeing, here's what I'm not seeing, and he says this and all of that. So just to get some validation from his, therapist about that. But there are, and I don't know what CSAT he's working with. I'm not saying anything negative about the CSAT. He may be going out, oh, I can only see my CSAT twice a month. I'd be going like twice a week, maybe, and doing group and a whole bunch of other things. He is not in recovery. Again, he may have stopped some of the problematic behavior, and he may be showing up a little bit differently. But that feels highly manipulative to me too, that like, I want you off my back. So.
Yeah, I see this whole part about making an effort, daily check-ins, more helpful around the house, as you won't bug me anymore or really bother me if I'm really showing up for this family. Because how did he learn what he's supposed to do? I mean, my clients, especially in treatment, they turn to me and they say, I have no idea how absent I've been from my home and from my kids and my spouse. And they're weeping about this because they are in touch with what they've done. I mean, that's part of our job to get them there. But this person, that your husband, I just don't think he knows how to shut you up. And he's doing a good job of it. And that's really what you're saying here is, my husband's shutting me up, and I don't know if he's right by doing that or whether I'm right. You're right. The question is, how do you take, and I didn't see here, Tammy, how is she, I think it's she, taking care of herself? Again, I didn't see
I didn't hear any of
anything.
that either, other than being here, which is, this is one little piece of it. But, we have, and Dr. Rob mentioned too, on the sexandrelationshiphealing.com site, we have drop-in groups and other webinars, and we've got podcasts, and all those are supportive, resources, and those are helpful. But you working with a qualified professional for you, again, from a codependent lens, if you don't know what that means, there's a book Dr. Rob wrote about it, and there's podcasts. But it's not about, you're not codependent, you're not enmeshed, you're not an enabler. He's got a problem. Nothing you did or didn't do would have changed that. He chose, those behaviors. In active addiction, we have compulsions and we don't feel like we have choices, but in recovery, and that isn't, so I always say abstinence is stopping the behavior. it might be white knuckling it. We don't have any clues. Sobriety is I'm starting to get a clue. Recovery is I'm really showing up differently. I'm taking responsibility. I'm leaning into the relationship. I'm looking to do things, I want you to feel safe, and my behavior will show that. And I don't hear any of that. So, okay, ready?
By the way, there's one more
ahead.
thing.
Sure.
You said he took a SAST, which is, Tammy said, is like a 20. It's sort of like a SAST is something you'd see in Vogue. It's like a questionnaire and, like that really. But by the way, Tammy, you mentioned the like 100 question, couple 100 question test.
It's
And
hundreds of questions. Yeah.
I have no doubt that he took it.
I
He would just never
actually
say that he
do
took it.
have a doubt. A lot of therapists don't, like, and then you have a lack of information because, like, I have to just share this quickly. Right now, the record is 11 years of how long a client lied to a therapist. I'm sure somebody can break that. But it's really sad when a client keeps going to their therapist and lies to their therapist ongoing, but they get to check off the box with their spouse. Look, and I hear from the partners, he's really trying, he's working with his therapist. And I'm like, no, he's checking off a box, so it's complicated. None of this is easy stuff. And there's a lot of support and resources. But it's a journey, and he's still, I feel
Full of
like
shit.
really, really manipulative. So.
Excuse me.
Okay, next question. As an SAPA in therapy 1 year, multiple sessions per week, yay. 12-step, yay. 1 year, 3 to 4 times a week. Yes, thank you. Diagnosed with many mental disorders, chronic post-traumatic stress, OCD, anxiety, etc. I still experience a lot of cravings, urges, and have convincing self-talk to act out or relapse. Is there something I can do to help with that? And any of these tips that those disorders and addictions. And I'm sorry you're struggling. I know, people can continue to have, from alcohol, like the urge left me quickly, which I'm grateful for, but I know people can really struggle with that. So Dr. Rob, what are your thoughts on that? Because doing a lot of good stuff.
I would be careful here because it feels like there's a little bit of conflation, putting these things together, my mental health and my acting out, cravings, urges. We all, those of us who get sober, we have cravings, we have urges, and we don't have to have emotional or mental. Now, they can drive compulsive thinking, but I wouldn't automatically assume. If the rest of your life is reasonably stable, if you're not counting ceiling tiles, if you're not so anxious you can't get out of bed, if you're reasonably functional in other areas, then probably what you're experiencing is more to do with a change in your behavior. So I think for a lot of folks, it's like, oh, I have anxiety, so I'm going to have slips. So I'm going to, struggle in this way. And I just make sure it's not an excuse, with all due respect. My answer to the question is very simple. Connection. And it's perfect because this person said, I have to have a convincing self-talk. Don't bother. Pick up the phone, because I can self-talk myself right into an affair. But if I have this is why we do 12-step meetings in part. I have someone to call and say, I'm thinking about doing this. It's interesting because when I used to sponsor people, and I've sponsored a fair number of people over the years, they call me and they would call me and say, oh, I'm really excited. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I know I shouldn't be doing it. And the first question I have for them is, how are you going to feel after? Because they're just thinking about what it's going to, like with relapse thinking, they're just thinking about what all the excitement that's going to be. They're not on the other side where it's like, oh, do I have an STD and I'm incredibly ashamed and I'm 3 hours late for my kids. And, so I would ask you to put that question on a piece of paper and keep it with you, is how I'm going to feel later. But without accountability, without relationships that are healing, relationships you can rely on. Look, when we act out, we're looking for connection. It may not be the best connection or the right connection, but we're looking for some kind of connection. And I think for addicts to begin to turn to healthy people for their connection and make use of those relationships, that's a lot better than self-talk. Self-talk's great, but connecting with other people, better.
Well, and, so hopefully you're talking to your sponsor and peer support, but you've been around the 12 steps for a year. Hopefully you're sponsoring people too. Like the 12-step groups are, it's so challenging for people to step up and be a sponsor. So, like what better way to stop the cravings than work with somebody else? That's so service work is so critical to recovery work as well.
Yeah, and I just want to double up on that. And maybe this isn't right thinking, but after many years, I'd go to a meeting, and if I felt like acting out, I would hear that person who just walked in the door and what they were going through and what their struggle was. And I thought, I don't want to be in that position again. And I feel badly for them. And I could even help them, but I don't want to be them. I don't want to be in that position. And so it's real motivation, not that I want someone else to do badly, but to remind me of where I was. Even when I'm working at Seek Integrity, I'm listening to the guys, it's like, oh, right. Sorry, guys, I'm going to see you tomorrow. But it's kind of like, oh, right. That's what happened to me. And I could easily end up back there. So.
And that's valid. Yeah, I mean, but we can shift, and the more connections we have, the less likely that is to happen. So, okay, next question. How much should a betrayed spouse be involved in his recovery plan? I keep being told to focus on myself and let him do his own thing, but I feel like he will never willingly choose to do more unless pushed at first.
You want to start that one? I'm going to have some answers, Tammy, but I'm sure you have thoughts on your mind.
Well, I do have a lot of thoughts on it, but what I hear again is someone who is not really stepping into the recovery space. And I don't know what the reasons are, but I hate hearing that a betrayed partner's focus has to feel like it's on the addict. Like, you're not, I'm saying he and she.
Not
You're not his
babysitter, not
parent,
police
right?
officer, right?
You're not his parent, you're not his police officer, you're not any of those things, and at some point, what's a healthy boundary for you? I think this is what I need to see for my safety. So I need to see you doing X amount of 12-step meetings. I need whatever it is, and have the plan, have the discussion. And then how he chooses to step into that space, to me, that's more his thing. That said, I get calls all the time from betrayed partners, and they'll say, I know he should be calling. And I'm like, thank God you're calling, because he's probably not going to pick up the phone. So thank God that I hear that you care, that you want to have information so that you can help with this. So part of it is kind of, where's he at, in that. But I do think it's okay for you to set a healthy boundary of, I'm not your sponsor, I'm not your therapist, I'm not your police officer, I'm not your parent, I'm your partner. And if you want to be in a relationship with me, here's what I'm looking for. And to see you moving towards you, they won't be able to do it right away, but this is what I'm looking for. And how do we get from where we are now to that point? It's going to take work on his behalf. So hopefully that's helpful.
That's a lot. I want to add one thing, which is I think spouses have every right to know what is in my recovery plan, what my sobriety is. You need to know if I've done any acting out or anything like that. It's really essential that I tell you. Now, if I look at someone on the street and I think they're attractive and then I keep going, that's what my recovery plan is. You would never feel safe if every time I looked at someone, I told you. But the serious piece is where I really did something that is going to endanger our relationship. I have to tell you. But I was thinking, Tammy, that this is, yes, you need to focus yourself and let him do his own thing, but what is his thing? What would this is what I'm comfortable with, I would say. I'm comfortable with you going 2 meetings a week. I'm comfortable with you getting a sponsor. I'm comfortable with you taking a piece of paper and putting it on the refrigerator and writing all the days of the week down and showing me everything you're going to do for your recovery each day. And I am not comfortable with being the one who's pushing you into recovery. In other words, I would tell him this. I would say, look, this is not my job. I don't want to be here. What you're doing is you're really testing our relationship, and you are testing whether or not we're going to stay together. And if you're not motivated in this area and this arena to do your own work, my pushing you isn't going to help. And besides, and Tammy would probably say this too, if you push him, it's your fault. Oh, she's always nagging me. Oh, she's making this difficult. Why won't she let me do my own program? Don't push. Say, this is what I need. This is what I want. And then he gets to decide whether he's going to do it or not, and have a backup plan. By the way, just to say to everybody, just as a matter of point, don't threaten to leave unless you're going to leave. If you tell me, well, if you do that one more time, you leave, I'm going to leave. And then I do it again and you don't leave. Well, then I know who's really got the power, because you say things, but you don't do them. So I'm not suggesting that you don't say that if that's something you feel, but I don't say it, don't make threats unless you intend to carry out, because when you don't, I learn a lesson, which is, oh, I can do whatever I want. She's not going to do anything, or he's not going to do anything. So just be careful when you threaten, and I understand threatening, believe me, that it's something you're really willing to carry out.
And I
What
think
else?
it's okay
Go
to
ahead.
say, I really, I want us to be able to, get through this difficult time, but I don't, I'm, the load is not mine to carry. I'm going to set healthy boundaries, and boundaries are for your safety. And it's also expectations. Kids that don't have any boundaries when they grow up, they don't know where the limits are. So if we set healthy boundaries and we believe them and we hold to them, then everybody knows what the rules are, so to speak. And it's not to be punitive. It's just, we have when you're driving down the road, there's lanes. I need to stay in this lane so that I'm not, ending up in the ditch. There's a reason, So it's just to help guide the process, but it also takes some of the anxiety off of you, because it's not like, oh, I have to go check his phone. I have to go check and see, wait, has he gone to the meeting? Did he? I mean, like, no, be here, read a book. It's good stuff. So.
And again, you need support too. So I'll say that one
Yeah.
more time, because it may be very hard to tolerate that this person you love is not doing what you asked them to do, what would make you feel safe. You need other people to turn to and say, I cannot believe that this is going on after all he or she has done. And again, it's shame reducing, and there may be other thoughts. Tammy and I are good, but we are pretty good. But if you got 6 or 8 people in that group, they're all good. And they're all going to give you advice, and you'll get a little pinch. One of the things I hear from spouses, and I find it upsetting, is I don't want to be like those people. I don't want to go into one of those meetings. All of their spouses sound like they're losers. And, I hate to say this to you, but this is your situation. It's not different than any of theirs. And to avoid it means really to avoid the reality of what you're living through. If I had cancer and I didn't want to go to the cancer support group, it doesn't mean the cancer is going to go away, but I will feel more peace, more comfort, more direction if I show up for that group. And I cannot encourage your spouses enough to take care of yourselves.
Next question. I'm the betrayed spouse. We had full disclosure 2 months ago, and I'd like my SA husband to answer a few further questions about his formal disclosure issues. Nothing too detailed, but he gets defensive and angry. How do we progress in healing in our relationship if he's not willing to be transparent?
Well, I'm going to throw something out here just for the heck of it, and I may be wrong. When do you ask those questions? In what circumstances do you ask those questions? And I'm not trying to say there's any way your responsibility. You get to ask whatever you want, and then he'll tell you or won't. But I think sometimes, and with all due respect, spouses are so hurt and angry that we get questions all day long. We get questions all day long. Well, I just thought about this. Did you do this? And here I am, trying to get some work done. Or did you do this? Tammy and I often talk about taking a time every evening where you're going to sit down and talk about this. And that way it's not in the middle of the day. You're not going to get the I'm busy thing. We have put this time aside to talk about it. And quite honestly, I say to you spouses, and I really mean this, write your questions down during the day. Use your phone, whatever it takes. I'm worried about this. Did this happen? Did that happen? Because the temptation would be to run to the person and say, did you do this? Didn't you do this? That's not going to make you feel better. And by the way, I will say to all of your spouses, and this is universally true, there is a thought that I hear, which is, if I just know the answer to this, then X, Y, Z. And the reality is, once you ask a question, there's going to be another and another and another and another. And I can actually explain that. I don't think, and this is my belief, I don't think that you spouses are looking for reasons to leave. I think you're looking for reasons to stay. And you ask questions and go through everything to see if it's possibly safe enough for you to continue. And, if you wanted to leave, you could just leave. So, yes, we have to answer your questions. Yes, we should be transparent as much as, how do I say as much as, with the things that belong to you, not necessarily what someone said at a 12-step meeting, someone else, but you might want to make the time. Now, if he's not willing, I'm going to toss that one to Tammy. What if he's not willing to put that time aside and meet with her?
Oh, that would be a huge problem for the relationship. So,
Right.
but let's go with you guys have done a formal therapeutic disclosure. I'm wondering if, are these questions that should be asked with the therapist? I'm also wondering, really, and I say this to partners all the time, can you tell I talk to a lot of people? But it's like, what are you looking for, with the question? Like I think it's fair to look at what it is. And there's some questions. I had somebody the other day that was saying, I know I shouldn't ask, whatever. And I said, you can ask whatever you want. Is it going to serve what you're looking for? Like, is that question the helpful one? If this is what I'm looking for, is that question going to help it? And a lot of times, no. And the why questions, like addicts don't know why. So to me, the better question is how. Here's where we are, and how do we move forward without, and it's not to negate, like you deserve financial, or not financial, I keep saying financial disclosure because
Use the money, feel free to send it to him.
I know I've had too many people had some major financial issues with, anyway. But you deserve a formal disclosure that is therapeutic, that is well done, not a do-it-yourself, but you've had the formal disclosure. And I agree with Dr. Rob, there's going to be more questions that keep coming up. Suffice it to say, it was bad. Hopefully you're seeing the progress that he's doing to move it forward. So it was bad. If he's doing things that are moving forward, how can you lean into that? How can you move forward with that? Because continuing to keep focusing on I'm not, again, going, oh, he gets to whitewash the past, but it's like, if all the focus keeps going back to this, does that detract from you guys being able to move forward? And I don't know what the answer is for you, but I'm inviting you to think about, what am I really looking for? And does this serve us moving forward, in a healthy way, then ask. But I would agree, do it in a contained space, either with your therapist or in the 20-minute session that you have, that's the time to talk about stuff, so defense doesn't happen so much.
Add some quick things, which is, and to all your spouses, don't ask specific sexual details. Don't ask how big this thing was, or how we did that, or what he or she had, or, we can say, I was seeing sex workers on a regular basis, and I was having oral sex, and I was paying this much for it. Yes. But, what else went on? Did this person take their clothes off? What did they, you need to know the basics. We had intercourse. But the reason, and there really is a reason, is that I know that you guys feel like, well, I want to know everything that happened. It is absolutely true, and Tam will back this up, that if you know the real sexual details, you'll never forget it. And try to be sexual and loving with someone. Talk about PTSD. It will always come up in your head. Oh, she really wants someone that has this and has that, or he really wants, and I'm not that person. And then you start to picture them while you're having sex or whatever, with someone else. And then you don't want to have sex anymore. So ask everything that you want to ask, but we discourage the sexual details. And that's why we use words like penis and breasts, and because we don't want the guys to get triggered, the ladies, and we don't want you guys to have those issues keep you from the bigger stuff that you need to look at. Something else that person said. No, let's move on, Tam.
Okay. I am a male addict in recovery for just under 1 year. I have learned so much in the past year through all my recovery work, which is a full 6 days a week and 1 day for dedicated family time, and have definitely made visible outward progress with myself and my partner. Do you have any advice for dealing with severe triggering and trauma response from my partner experiences outside the support acronym and validation of things of that nature?
So I'm a little confused. This person is asking for advice for their own, for the partner's triggers.
For the partner, yes.
Right.
Yeah,
so I wrote a
book.
book.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a book for you. It's called Out of the Doghouse, a relationship saving guide for men caught cheating. And as I will say, very often, is that I have met, literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of men who've cheated, some of them in an addictive way, some of them not. And I have to tell you that out of those hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of men, I have never met a man, and I mean never, who understood how to make peace with a woman he had betrayed. We're all about, it's been 3 months, aren't you over it yet? And let me give you some candy and take you on vacation, or that piece of jewelry you've been wanting, or let me take the kids away. We're all about trying to make it better, or being fed up because we're impatient. And and this is not something you can clear up with gifts and flowers. This is not something that you can clear up by saying, I'm sorry. This is a devastating relationship issue. And so I would suggest that you either give him or ask him to read Out of the Doghouse, because it's basically an exercise in empathy. It's how to act, at least act like you have empathy and put your narcissism aside. And what I say in Doghouse to the men, and I really mean this, is if you don't want to stay with this person, do whatever you want. You don't have to be empathic. You don't have to be kind. You don't have to. But if you want to be with this person and you want to make peace with this person, you're going to have to act differently with them. And I have to just say, a lot of people just don't know how to make peace with you, and or how long it might take. It's shocking to me that men I work with say, oh, 3-4 months. I mean, and it's a year. It is a year before I think there's real peace in the house. And that's provided everybody's doing their job. So
Well,
Tammy,
and I would say a year at least. And this person says, and I do applaud you, 6 meetings of, I mean, you're doing good work. That's great. But just think about your partner, got hit by a truck a year ago, and you knew all along that you were lying, cheating, doing all this stuff. So it wasn't a
right.
news flash for you. It was for your partner. That's the challenge. And so like theirs is delayed. And I say, 12 to 24 months. I mean, it takes what it takes. And there's no magic that, oh, well, they're at 18 months and they should darn well be over this.
Right.
Now, some partners do get stuck and need some EMDR or some things, to help, the somatic experience, do some work around those trauma triggers so that they aren't having the physical body reaction to it. But a lot of it, and I put the link in there, the Out of the Doghouse work group is starting again next week. It's practical
Right.
information and peer support of like, okay, I said this to my wife and you're like, I thought it was a good thing, and her reaction was this, and
Right.
the guys will go,
Right.
yeah, I mean, like you'll get help and validation, around some of that. So
Tammy, I just have to ask, are we starting in a second Out of the Doghouse group tomorrow?
yes,
Is that what
no,
it
no,
is?
no, it's not tomorrow. It's next week. So the
Okay.
next Sex Addiction 101 starts this Saturday, and then
Uh-huh.
Out of the Doghouse, a new group, a level 1 will start next week. So yeah,
So,
on this website, you'll find those resources.
and let me just say, if it makes any sense to you, that these go in order. A book that I wrote on empathy and compassion for your spouse is not going to be useful if you're still acting out.
Correct.
So a lot of the men I work with will say, oh, I read Out of the Doghouse and I've learned how to be empathic and nice to my wife. Well, that's nice, but you're still seeing sex workers. So, the partners, and I understand, want this person to act in a certain way because they deserve it, and they haven't gotten it. But on the other hand, if this person doesn't understand sobriety, let them read Sex Addiction 101 first, or some kind of, get into the process. Doghouse is really about, okay, we are moving towards some peace here, and I want to really understand how to make that peace better and more aligned. I will tell you, it is my best-selling book because there's a lot of people cheating out there, and they have no idea how to make it better. So,
Well, and interestingly, so we have a porn addiction 101 too. And I had somebody that reached out and said, like I didn't cheat. I was looking at porn, like all of these things. I didn't have sex with a real person. So in this person's mind, it wasn't really cheating, even though it's obviously caused a lot of problems within the relationship. And so I was like, if it's secrets and lies and you're hiding behavior from your partner, or it's not agreed upon, then there's still it's still problematic for the relationship. And anyway, so we have a porn
well, but I
addiction
wanted to say
101
something
starting
about
too.
Tammy,
Yeah, please.
which is, there's nothing wrong with, well, I don't judge people who use porn. I worry about the people in the porn, but I don't judge someone if they want to look porn occasionally. I don't judge someone who has a drink once in a while. I even get drunk on New Year's, but I really am concerned about the people in repetitive patterns of behavior that they don't see how problematic it is. And I think I'm saying that in relationship to this time. I'm getting old. I don't remember things.
I was
Yeah.
talking about the work group, so porn addiction 101
Oh,
and
right.
Out
So,
of the Doghouse. So yeah.
I just want to say the Doghouse. So we limit the workshop. These are just educational. We're not doing therapy, but Out of the Doghouse is a very educational process. How do I be empathic? I think that filled up in 3 days, and so that's why we're doing
It,
more.
it did, and one more that's coming. So for those of you that have been doing the Troy Love webinars, which he's on this week Wednesday, but he also does a betrayed partner group alternating Thursdays, and he does the men's group every Friday on attachment wounds. And there'll be a 6-week work group starting February 7th on that specific topic. Eddie Caparucci will have some inner child work. So there's the basics like porn addiction 101, sex addiction 101, and then there's some components that will help support the recovery, not just abstinence, but recovery, as you build that too. So ready for
Hey, Tammy, that group that Troy is doing, is that open to addicts and partners, or who is
No,
the
this one
focus?
would be for just addicts because
Okay,
they need the help on figuring those
right.
things out. Not that partners don't, and we may do that, but we have our plates kind of full. So that will be the next one. We do have some betrayed partner work group that probably March. Watch for that. I'll obviously talk about it too, but we'll have a 6-week work group to support, partners as well. So we're busy. Okay, so the next question, and this one's right up your alley. Can you please comment on the link between early childhood trauma and addiction, and how would you treat that?
Why isn't it, and how would you treat that? Why did it become that? How did you treat that?
Because you get pretty passionate when you go trauma.
Yeah,
So go, please.
that's why. So first of all, Tammy said earlier that everyone wants to know why, but the important word is how. So every time a guy comes into seeking integrity, why did this happen to me? Why do I have this problem? And the issue really is why the why is not as important, is that I can know every single thing that happened to me ever, if I had a complete memory for it, and it wouldn't stop me from going and using porn and acting out, because that is a skill set, and it's stopping. It's a skill set, and it has to do with relationships and healing and connections. It's a process. And so that's more how stuff. In the beginning and in treatment, we do look a little bit at the why, but only in terms of when so many people I work with say I'm a bad person. I am not worth living. I am, I'm unlovable. And after what I've done. And I can say to them, well, I don't think you were being malicious, but you sure hurt a lot of people. I wonder if you're more broken than bad. And if we can look at the past and trauma and all that and see how they got broken, then we can move from shame to guilt. We can move from I'm awful to I did awful things. And without that, it's very hard to gain motivation, because if you're terrible, you're just terrible. Not much I can do about that. So just to say that piece. So I think it's actually a fairly simple explanation, which is if you didn't get what you needed in early life with people. So there are people who raise us, right? And Lord knows they do their best. And I actually believe that my caregivers and parents did the best they could, but it wasn't what I needed. And that sort of takes us out of the parent bashing, because I don't blame them, I don't hate them, but they sure weren't able to meet my needs. And so when someone grows up with that lack of trust, that these people will meet my needs, and I mean needs for comfort, needs for support, needs for soothing, when I can't rely on that, or there's a lot of abuse in the home and I know better than even to ask, I learn from that. And what I learn is it's not safe to reach out to other people to get help. Number one, I'm going to hurt because they're not going to help me. And number two, it must be my fault that they're not responding to me and helping me, because little kids don't look at mom and say, well, mom has an eating problem and dad's having affairs. Little kids look up and say, what's wrong with me that I'm not getting the consistency and love that I need? So when you take that message into adult life, what it really means is I'm not going to ask anyone for anything. And when I'm emotionally challenged, I'm going to go off in my little corner and make myself feel better. In other words, we're anti-relational. Healthy people turn to loved ones, friends, the church, their community when they are hurting. And from that, they don't get fixed, but they get comfort from that. Addicts don't get comfort from relationships with other people. In fact, we don't have much comfort at all, but we do get distracted from our discomfort. Since we don't reach to people, we reach to stuff. And what I tell the guys in treatment is, what you don't realize is you're on the floor trying to pull crumbs out of the carpet when there's a banquet behind you. And the banquet is your family and your friends and the people who love you. But I don't trust that. I don't trust that as an addict, but what I do trust is these little crumbs I see on the floor. And if I keep picking at them, maybe I'll get my, so, I think that it is a learned experience of not trusting or believing you can rely on your caregivers, that teaches you that people are really not safe and they're going to let me down. And so an adult, and you learn this at the earliest stages, like before 6, and which is part of the problem because people don't remember what happened to them at that age. They just see the outcome of it in their adult lives. Every person I work with who has an intimacy disorder, which is what sex addiction is, had trauma, and it had to do with relationship trauma. My mother was mentally ill. I was her caregiver. I took care of her. And that, by the way, I learned a lot of grandiosity and narcissism around that, which is I'm the adult. I get to, be in charge of mom. And so we're screwed up on a whole bunch of levels. And I'll say one more thing. There's a reason why addiction is a chronic issue that you have to deal with throughout your life. Because when I was in the formulating experiences of literally how my brain evolved, I learned not to trust people and to do it on my own. And that part of my brain is sealed over. I'm not going to be 6 again. I'm not going to be 5 again. I'm not going to be 3, and I'm not going to get those needs met ever. And when as a child. So my default belief is they're not going to get met. And then I don't even try. By the way, that is one of the advantages of 12-step program therapy is we're sort of forced to try. I'm forced, but I raise my hand in a 12-step meeting. I say, I'm really struggling with this and I really need help with that. In my home, people have said, fix it yourself. Or let me tell you about my day. And you raise your hand in a meeting and someone comes over and says, do you want to have a cup of coffee? That must be really, and it doesn't rewire our brain because it's already set. And that's why addiction is a chronic illness, because it's such an early damage, really. But I can learn as an adult in thought-based ways. Well, if I do that, it'll be that, and it won't be as difficult. And the more meetings I go to, the more I learn for help, ask for help. The more therapy I have, the more I believe as an adult that people will be there for me. And it makes it a lot easier to turn to people for healing and support rather than trying to fix it on my own. So that was my answer.
That's great. So, and I put in the chat the link to the podcasts that are on the on the I'm looking at your screen, so it's backwards. Anyway, on the sexandrelationshiphealing.com, because Dr. Rob did a podcast with Dr. Enid Gray about neglect, the silent abuser, and all of those things that he just talked about, whether it's parents didn't have the bandwidth that, for whatever variety of reasons, but the child's needs didn't get met, that sets us up for those things. Troy loves the attachment wounds. That's exactly that stuff. And it doesn't, we can't get magically fixed, but for me, my abandonment wound is a biggie, and just to be able to go, oh, that's my abandonment wound being poked, it's information that I can choose then to do something differently than just react to it.
So real quick, Tammy, we're getting some people who asked, is this meeting recorded? Because we take in so much information.
Yes,
so
it's on sexandrelationshiphealing.com. I'll put the link in here. So it's under the resources, previously recorded webinars. It will be up tomorrow. And we have one more question that we are going to
wait
before you go ahead.
And you haven't said this because Tammy's embarrassed, I think. But every one of our talks going back to a year and a half ago is a podcast. And they've all been recorded, and you go look at them. And actually, those numbers have gotten bigger. Tell them the name of our podcast, Tammy.
Overcoming a Betrayal and Addiction. And it's on the same link. So Sex, Love, and Addiction. And the other one is also on there as well. And you can find them both on the link. So but we have... Go ahead.
And I've had almost 1 million downloads. Tammy and she doesn't know this. I've had tens and thousands of downloads because everyone wants to listen to Tammy.
I actually do pay attention to I was looking at I don't look often, but I was looking at the numbers the other day, and yes, it's.
Can we put the link? Somebody wants a link to the podcast in the chat.
It's in there. So yeah. So the links are the first one was to the work groups. The second one was to the podcast. You'll see it ends in podcast. But basically, from these two websites, you can find everything, and you can find me, and I'll answer your questions. But we're going to end with
Tammy,
this last question.
I know it's dinner time.
Yeah,
so
I know we have
one more question.
Yeah, we're going to do. I'm the betrayed partner. If I don't want to be intimate because I'm having a traumatic day, or even if I just don't want to, I feel like I have to give in so he doesn't enter his yellow circle. How do I say no? This is important. We have to answer this one.
Okay, so I just want to say to every partner, and if please write this down. Okay, this is when I do my 2-hour consultations with couples, and I do a couple a week where Tammy sets them up, and I spend a couple hours with you guys and try to figure things out. And one of the first things I say to partners, and please write this down, is there is nothing that I could do, that I can do, or I could have done. There is nothing that what did I say? I could do, I can do, or have
Nothing
done.
I did or did not
Right.
do. Yeah,
Can
that'll
cause
change
someone to
anything.
act out.
Mhm.
If I want to drink, I'm going to drink. I might use it as an excuse and say, well, she made me do it, but that's not true. I could go for a walk. I could play with a dog. My decision to go to have sex with strangers or to drink as an alcoholic is my decision. It's easy to blame you, but that's not true. So, first of all, I'm concerned about this boundary that you have to give in because it doesn't sound consensual, and non-consensual sex is sort of like rape. Even if there are many people who are sexually abused who just give in because they don't want the fight and they just want to get over with, but that doesn't mean you're not being abused just because you give in. And so I would be really careful about taking care of yourself. But this idea that if we don't have sex, then he or she is going to go do this or that, and I need to have a lot of sex with them so that they don't go. No, we cannot have sex with them for a year, and we can go for a walk. We can play with a dog. We can divorce you. But going out and having sex with strangers or pushing you into sex when you don't feel comfortable is not going to lead to recovery, especially the pushing you. Because then if we push you for sex and you don't give it to us, we blame you. Well, see, he or she won't give me any sex, so now I get to go out and have. Actually, yeah. So there's no way of winning here except to take care of yourself. You don't want to have sex? Don't. This person won't stop. Go in the other room, lock the door. You have a right to protect your body on every level. And there is nothing that in God's earth that anyone could do to you, should be able to do to you, to leave you unprotected. This man, unfortunately, is not going to protect you. He probably hasn't protected you for a very long time. Um, and by the way, I have had some recent clients who were pressuring their spouses into sex. And just like I said before, Tammy, they weren't even aware that that was abuse. It never, I mean, this is one of the reasons you go to Seeking Integrity, get treatment, is that, oh, I didn't realize how abusive I was. I didn't realize that really, they just, addicts are so invested in their point of view in order to be able to do what they want and not feel badly about it that we just don't see whole pieces of it until we get into treatment or get into help. So with that, I will say,
No, I'm gonna
Tammy.
hang on. I'm gonna add just real
Oh,
quickly.
okay. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I don't want to be intimate. You're not being intimate like that. There's a sexual act happening. I don't even know if he's fully present. You are the vessel. It's happening to you.
Right.
But he's just going like, I'm getting off, don't care. No offense, but I mean, so intimacy is not, I mean, sex addicts prove day in and day out that they can have sex and not be intimate. So sex is not intimacy. Intimacy is, we talk about
Being known.
yes, being known. So giving in so he doesn't get to his yellow circle. What is his plan? What's in his outer circle? He needs to be, well, I would invite him to work with his sponsor and work with his qualified therapist, or come see us at seekingintegrity.com. So.
And the last piece of it, how do I say no? Which makes me very, very sad. Lock your bedroom door, go stay with a friend. In other words, you may not be able to say no. Some people, for whatever reason, push comes to shove. Oh, that's weird. Push comes to shove.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. But they might need to go somewhere else to have a physical boundary so that they can feel safe, or ask this person. By the way, this is another thing I would talk about when you're not having sex and you're not in bed, is like, do you realize how uncomfortable I feel? And do you realize how pressured I feel? And I wouldn't talk about it in the moment. But you have every right in every moment to say no. And if you don't feel you have that right, then find a way to be safe. Anyway, thank you, Tammy. I always enjoy our work
Thank you.
together.
Yeah.
And
Me
we'll see you guys
too.
next week.
Bye.
Bye for now.